everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'll be discussing Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I'm sure you've heard of it, it's a really popular thriller, and the movie adaptation just came out early October, so there's definitely been a lot of hype around this book. I finally picked it up, I read it, and it is just a crazy roller coaster ride of a book. There are so many twists in the plot, it definitely keeps you reading. I actually thought I spoiled myself for this book because I flipped to the back to read Gillian Flynn's biography, and I don't know who decides this stuff, but right next to the biography is a list of discussion questions, and one word in particular stood out to me, and I read it. I didn't read the actual question, but I saw that one word, and I thought that it had spoiled me. But it turns out I wasn't spoiled. What a relief! This is definitely not a book you ever want to be spoiled for, no matter how tempting it is to look up the plot summary on Wikipedia when you're reading. My advice is to go into this book without knowing anything. I personally only knew that it was about a married couple, and one day the wife disappears, and then there's some speculation that maybe the husband was responsible for it, and that's all I knew about it. So that's all I'm gonna tell you. Gone Girl is a really exciting read, particularly the second half of it. The characters are very complex and extremely questionable. The plot is very elaborate and intricate, and Gillian Flynn has a really great, easy-to-read writing style. Oh, and this is a warning, this is an adult book, so there's definitely some adult, mature content in it. So if you're uncomfortable with that, then I would maybe pass on this book. And that's it for the non-spoilery section, so if you haven't read Gone Girl, I need you to leave. Now. Right now. Spoiler time! You can't really get into this book without talking about the spoilers, which I think is a sign of a good plot. One of the discussion questions had the word suicide in it, so naturally it led me to believe that Amy had committed suicide, and I was like, oh my god, I'm spoiled. I'm so upset. But no, the question was like, do you really believe Amy would have committed suicide or something like that? So, it's all good. False alarm. Thank God. But seriously, why would you put discussion questions at the very end next to the back flap? Like, is one paper too much to ask for? Just one blank sheet. Okay, let's talk about the writing. I think Gillian Flynn has a really nice writing style, especially for the genre of books that she writes. It's straightforward, it's simplistic, it's the best kind of writing to have to drive forward a novel like this one. It's definitely not lyrical or beautiful in a conventional way, but there is a certain beauty in how comfortable Gillian Flynn is in her language. I felt like there was a nice distinction between Amy and Nick's chapters. I was never confused as to who was narrating, so that's definitely really great. But enough of that, I really want to get into the plot and the characters. This book is the most duplicitous book I have ever read. It plays with your head so much. I felt so tricked when I got to part 2 and Amy was in hiding. When she revealed that Diary Amy was not the real Amy and that it was purposefully written for the reader to like her, I felt so duped because I had liked her. At the very least, I had felt sympathetic towards Diary Amy, and to realize that it was just fiction. Oh my god! I mean, fiction beyond fiction itself. What? Nick was such a scumbag. I hated him throughout the whole book. Even after finding out that Amy was a freaking psychopath who framed her husband for her murder, I still didn't feel sorry for him because Nick is a really sucky man. He's misogynistic, he's selfish, he's irritable, he's unfaithful, and he's just an all-around terrible guy. But of course, I couldn't stop reading about him. I knew he was cheating. Well, I guessed it. Professor sleeping with one of his students. How disgustingly cliche. I honestly never, not even for a second, thought that Nick killed Amy. I thought that would have been too obvious, and from what I had heard of this book, the plot definitely wasn't going to be something obvious. I thought the plot was crafted really well. The diary entries were written so manipulatively to get the reader to feel for Amy, and it worked. It worked so hard on me. I do think that part 1 of this book was pretty slow. I think it could have been condensed and more tightly written like the rest of the book was. There were such huge intervals between each treasure hunt clue, I couldn't help but feel frustrated at Nick for not completing each clue back to back right after the other, because it was clear that the treasure hunt was really important in driving the plot forward, and when he didn't do each clue right away, I was like, dude, stop stalling! You have to give Amy Elliott Dunn props. She's a mastermind. She thinks of everything, and she has such impeccable patience and a sharp, cunning mind. It's incredible. Of course, she's a psychopath. She's crazy. She's insane. She's completely bonkers, but kind of in an admirable way? Question mark. Is that terrible of me to say? But seriously, I have so much respect for Amy's diligence, her fastidiousness, how meticulous she was in every step of her plan. God, she saved her neighbor's pee and she poisoned herself and kept her vomit like she had no boundaries whatsoever. It was insane, but that kind of determination is just unreal. I'm not gonna lie, until the Desi scene, I was kind of rooting for Amy to get her way. I think the most glaring flaw was the reasoning behind her plan. This "let's frame Nick for my murder" plan was extremely well thought out and brilliantly executed. It was awesome how she could watch from the sidelines to see the characters move around like pawns on her chessboard. However, she did all of this why? Because Nick cheated on her? I feel like that's such a flimsy reasoning. Like, the reason behind the plan was just so weak, I can't help but think that it's a flaw in the book. But then again, I can't understand the argument that Amy is a psychopath, so she doesn't really need super strong reasoning for her to go through with this insane plan. I mean, look what she did to her friend from high school just because boys talked to her instead of Amy. Nick was also a pretty complex character. I thought I knew what kind of guy he was, but near the end, Gillian Flynn started to peel away these layers of his character and we'd see new sides of him, and it was just really fascinating. All the characters of this book are so interesting. Even if they're completely messed up in the head, they're fascinating, and they're the kind of characters that just beg to be written about. The ending was ridiculous. This book details a couple that wants each other dead, and then Amy's like, hey, let's bring a child into the world, and Nick's like, hey, I really like children, I want a child, I'm gonna stay with this crazy woman. What? The ending was so absurd, I can hardly handle it. Anyway, in conclusion, Gone Girl is very intricately written. It's very well done. I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely such an entertaining read. It's so exciting. It's just a lot of fun. I know it's labeled as a thriller, and for me, for some reason, when I think thriller, I think scary, but this book wasn't scary at all. It was just pure entertainment. So much fun. But yeah, it's thrilling in the exciting way, not the scary way. And it's great. I liked it a lot. Please let me know what you thought of Gone Girl. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts on Nick and Amy's relationship because, like, in my opinion, they're my relationship goal. And yeah, also, I really want to see the movie. I hear that's great. If you've seen it, please let me know if it's any good. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day and happy reading. Goodbye!